next, live coverage of the Irondequoit Town Board on ICAT Government Access.
Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Councilwoman Hush-LaRae. Councilman Perdicone.
Here.
Councilwoman Romeo.
Here.
Councilman Weiner. Supervisor Seeley.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will begin the public hearing at approximately 7:35 pursuant to town law. Just wanted to give a brief rundown of the budget that was presented to the public for review a few weeks ago. And we will adopt the final town budget next week, pending any amendments to the preliminary budget. Overall, and I'm just going to run through this, and hopefully Tommy is quarterbacking this from the basement, but if the slides don't appear on TV, I will make them available on the website. The town budget proposes to spend $35.1 million with revenues of $13 million, special assessments of $4.8 million, and fund balance of approximately $50,000. The fund balance is noteworthy because that's the lowest fund balance appropriation in several years, and is part of a goal to ultimately phase out using fund balance for capital improvements. We hope to replenish the fund balance by an amount exceeding that in the at the end of the year, but that's a good accomplishment to have that minimal fund balance. The net expense to the tax levy, which is the tax levy, amounts to $17.1 million. Overall, with regards to town spending over the past 10 years, spending has increased at about a percentage point a year. The tax levy has increased on average over the past decade about 0.5% annually. So some highlights. The town tax rate is proposed to be reduced to $6.04 per $1,000 of assessed value. This is largely to do with the result of the townwide reassessment. Promising news in the sense that Irondequoit has historically had the highest tax rate for towns. That will no longer be the case, as I believe we will drop down beneath a few of our cohorts. It's far under the state mandated property tax cap, and again, we reduced the reliance on fund balance, and there is a reduction in special assessments from last year. Those are your sewer and stormwater management charges, which are not derived from your assessed value, but more on consumption. And I will just note, within the expenditures and the increase in expenses, the largest increase in spending is attributed to the debt service for the DPW facility, which we are in the process of constructing. Some underlying principles that guided us in this budget. There's a significant investment in recreation, and that means more programming. It includes a new free summer playground location. We'll go from 4 to 5. It means more programming in general that we'll do in-house, and that will ultimately allow us to offer more to our residents. We propose budgeting over $1 million in road paving. It's a 26% increase over last year, and actually double what we were doing in 2014. I will note there is less anticipated revenue from property maintenance charges. And, revenue is good. However, in this case, less revenue is actually a good thing, because it means that I think we're doing a better job in maintaining these properties. If there are less violations, it means there's less problem properties. We're still being diligent in addressing them, but it's been a promising trend over the past few years. We have more dollars allocated to public right-of-way tree removal, which is a huge priority. And also just maintaining our infrastructure at our town hall. We're going to make some long overdue upgrades to the IT telecommunications by replacing our phone system in 2019. That will be done using cash capital. Just a note on the property taxes you pay. That's just a little bit of a breakdown of the distribution. And certainly, our schools are one of our most important assets in town. And as rightfully so, they take up a good amount of your overall property tax bill. About 60%. County accounts for about 19%. Your fire district tax is about 7.3%, in town about 13.3%. So that's a good overview of the distribution of the various local governments. I'll note, and I mentioned this earlier, town budgets over the past decade, on average, spending has increased at less than 1% annually, 9.5% over 10 years. The tax levy, which is the overall town property taxes, they have increased on average about 0.5% annually over the past decade. It's 5.1% increase over 10 years. And I'll just note in that time we have been able to make significant investments in the town despite holding taxes flat to inflate relative to inflation. That includes a library, several new sports fields, increased our recreation programming, doubled our paving budget, replaced our police car fleet, and had to replace a third of our DPW fleet unexpectedly due to the Christmas Eve fire from 2 years ago. The next chart, two charts are just interesting, and they just show, with regards to all funds, where our expenditures are, and you can see that Public Works and Police represent 2/3 of our overall expenditures. So those are the direct services. And then the next slide, if you look at revenue, roughly slightly less than half of the revenue for all of our operations is funded via property taxes. So it's not all through taxation, it's through revenue, other sources of revenue, sales tax, which has been increasing at a pretty good pace over the past few years with the promising economy. However, generally that property tax number is about half of financing all of our town expenditures. As always, if residents have questions about the budget process, and we've received some good questions via email, we're happy to answer them. It's a complicated budget. We welcome transparency, and look forward to hearing from residents tonight and through the interim period between this week and next. With that, I will take a motion to open the public hearing.
Moved.
In a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the public hearing is now open regarding the request to adopt the 2019 budget that matter. I believe when I checked, our sole person to sign up to speak was Mr. Goldblatt. However, if other people in attendance wish to address the board as well, they're welcome to do so after him. And I will now ask Mr. Goldblatt to come up.
Good evening, Jeff Goldblatt, 128 Parkside Crescent. This is my 28th budget presentation. As per usual, I may mention certain companies by name for purposes of clarity, and I have no employment or financial relationship with any such firm. On a personal note, Mr. Supervisor, welcome to the club. It looks nice.
Got a ways to go before I get there, Mr. Goldblatt. But
Well,
thank you.
You're off to a good start. Let's start with Parks and Rec. Earlier this year, the town let out a bid for landscaping services. And in the bid packet, it says repeatedly, grass cutting not included. I would suggest that grass cutting be included. That reduces your equipment maintenance costs, insurance, fuel, and labor. Other towns have done this, most notably the town of Penfield. We've discussed that before. And it would make for a more complete package along with all the other work that's currently being done. The 4th of July. Still an issue in regards to waste handling and the lack of complete recycling. We are still using these old 55-gallon drums for everything. This is not the 1960s, and there's a cost involved, whether it's damaging the grass or these ones that are peeling, not making a good impression on folks who come here to visit. Plus, the equipment that's brought in by your town hauler, which is wholly inappropriate. With recycling, there's very little need for a 30-yard roll-off and a high lift, and this has been the most difficult concept to explain here. On a roll-off, the back door opens. Consequently, the high lift and the interdepartmental charge for such isn't really needed. Then there's also the cost of renting additional 96-gallon roll carts to transport stuff back and forth. By using these barrels as transporters with a two-wheel handcart you can probably get on sale, online someplace, those become your transporters. The ones that haven't been painted up or are peeling apart, Those could be declared surplus and sold. For example, from the Western New York Materials Exchange, that's mat-ex.org. There's a company called Harbison Brothers in Buffalo that purchases and resells plastic for regrind and things of that nature. What I would suggest that we finally do is to get these for recycling and waste handling needs at the 4th of July. These are called Clearstream containers, and these are collapsible racks. There's a Cycle Max for recycling and a Trash Max for trash. You buy the racks once, and then it's just buying bags thereafter. Supposedly, these were purchased at one point. A former town official swore that we just haven't gotten around to putting these out. We can disagree on anything all day long, just don't lie to me. And that's what happened. These would be far more efficient to handle, less costly to handle, and now we can do a better job of capturing recycling as the county is looking for the total numbers across the county to bump up to 60% in about 6 years. Sounds like a lot, but the Syracuse area is already there. I think Monroe County is only at 38%. So everyone really needs to step up residentially and commercially. These would help and make for a far better appearance out here in front of our nice town hall than these old peeling barrels. And I don't think these are terribly expensive, but you can check with them, clearstreamcontainers.com.
Thank you.
Building maintenance. Just considering this building and the public safety building, in the last 2 years, raw cost total for both of these have increased by $100,000. It's a lot of money, and that's just these two buildings, never mind the others. I would again suggest, in following what's been done with grounds maintenance, to bid this out as well, all buildings. I've suggested in the past, and I have no connection with the firm, Midnight Janitorial. They've won a Business Ethics Award. They're actively involved with a number of community groups, Salvation Army, Junior Achievement, things of that nature. There are others. But putting together a complete package for building maintenance for all buildings should result in a savings, rather than this cost just continuing to go up year after year after year. And then we have the cemetery. This is a sideline enterprise that is not core to day-to-day life in the town. This is currently costing about $250,000, with revenue making up about half. I would suggest again that it is time to initiate talks with Stonemore Partners. They're located in Levittown, Pennsylvania. StonemoreNoe.com is their website. On taking this facility over, as they cater to non-for-profit entities, including a number of church parishes that have run into financial problems over the last several years. If just dealing with Irondequoit isn't good enough, maybe we partner up with the city. Now, the city will demur on Mount Hope for a number of reasons, starting with the fact that it's historic. Riverside is not historic, and they've had maintenance issues there. So maybe both of those would be a little bit more appealing to this firm. There's also what I will call the Eckerd Rite Aid Cemetery out in Henrietta, at East Henrietta and Calkins Road. I don't know who has responsibility for that. Maybe that's added into the mix. But regardless, I think it's well past the time for us to be in the cemetery business. Nice thing to have for folks, but it's becoming rather costly. Solid waste, my favorite topic. There's a licensing issue that has been ongoing for years, involving the roll-off only firms that are in and out of town. This represents a revenue loss, a liability issue, and I'll show you that in just a moment, and there are container issues that are not consistent with the language already in Section 192 of the code as far as the trucks are concerned. Earlier this year, I go to garage and estate sales all the time. These are photographs of a container that was at an estate sale on Ridgeview Drive. I can put my hand right through the metal. These are probably the worst I've ever seen. No name and phone number, so no one to call. In particular, the back door was so bad that whoever the firm is, we'll call them the fly-by-night roll-off company, they slapped in a sheet of old plywood just so stuff wouldn't fly out of the back. This is the worst I swear that I've ever seen. And points out that if there were a problem and the town hasn't taken has not taken action on this, well, we open ourselves up to all kinds of liability issues. And I'm sure if the town attorney were here, he would probably nod his head in agreement. There's also a code issue involved with these smaller firms that are doing roofing jobs and other such work in town. So there needs to be a code change to cover these smaller firms, and I can submit that separately. And there also needs to be a sliding scale in terms of the fee that's charged annually. I've always been of the view that the more you do, the more you pay, the less you do, the less you pay. This was discussed briefly years ago when the commission was up and running, and it was decided by the commissioner at that time that since these firms are only doing spot work, why bother with them? Well, we're up to about 16 of these firms with no accountability. There's no proof of insurance posted, there's no performance bond posted, and in a situation like this, who knows who belongs to this ratty equipment. And it's additional revenue that you would pick up because you have firms already licensed in that are complying with the code, and all these other firms are not. This really needs to be addressed. Then there's oversight. Earlier this year, and the town of Arundecoit wasn't hit as bad as others in upstate New York, was the collapse of a company called Farrer Rubbish, which was a Syracuse firm that collapsed and died earlier in the spring. They were operating illegally in town. They were licensed, but they were also mishandling recycling, which DEC and Albany take a dim view of. The last time I saw anything written up about this, the Attorney General's office cited 3 firms at $100,000 apiece for mishandling recycling, commingling with trash. So I saw this happen on Hudson Avenue back in last December, and I reported this into the second floor, and the response was, well, someone from the town has to see this. Well, I don't have one of those Star Trek devices. Beam me up, Mr. Speaker, to have somebody standing right next to me. And this only got worse. Not only here, but in Monroe County. Same firm. Channel 10 then reported that one of their trucks in Henrietta forgot to put the parking brake on, rolled across 4 lanes of traffic, and smashed into a 200-year-old building. I was also told of a similar circumstance. It was either in Utica or Ithaca. Same thing, and knocked the house off its foundation. I reported that. No action taken. So I then reached out to the DEC and found out, yes, this company was already on their radar. Thank you for the additional information. They finally collapsed at the beginning of April. Mostly commercial accounts in Arundecoit, some homes, and fortunately not very many as opposed to whole communities under municipal license that were left holding the bag, literally and figuratively. This has been an old problem in this building as far as oversight is concerned. Doesn't always necessarily mean 24/7 under a magnifying glass, but when there are problems, they're not followed up on. And if you check with the other towns that license, that would be Greece, Webster, and Henrietta, you will find that licensing goes through their town clerk. Now, before our fine town clerk runs over here and strangles me for suggesting more work for her office, let me state that's how this is done. The only DPW involvement is in the town of Greece, where they reserve the right to inspect whatever trucks you're going to put on the road, which is why in the case of Farrer and before that Heberly, as that company was collapsing, the old jalopies wound up here because no one's holding these companies to account. I would suggest that licensing goes to the town clerk as the other towns do. I'll volunteer to do the rest. Brush. And this gets to be a little bit interesting. These are a few examples I've taken around town of brush that I have to pay for. I mean, it's nice that, it's there, especially when there's a storm, it's there for the common good. But if residents are doing voluntary yard work under normal weather conditions, it's not fair for me or anybody else to subsidize somebody else's yard work. Now, if someone would like to subsidize mine, my address, once again, no, I'm just kidding. Or am I? There's an interesting piece of equipment, and I knew I was going to get out of order here someplace. And this is the place. I'll find it. Called an air burner to deal with this. Now you have a new DBW facility. It couldn't be done here, but this is a unit that can process wood waste at 7 to 20 tons per hour, generating thermal electricity and regular electricity for heating and lights. And it's in the pile. I'll come back to it. Now, as far as renewals are concerned, the other problem with the smaller haulers has been, and I've been told, well, we send the notices out, but these companies don't respond. How about a new approach? Using this, the Better Contractors Bureau, every roofing company, every general contractor, and while they're not listed in here, the estate sale firms, they get the notice with a little note that says, we don't care who you use for your waste hauling needs as long as they're licensed in. And they have to follow all the rules just like the other companies. Any questions? Here's who you call. Love and kisses, Town of Arundecoit. Highway 1. Now, you mentioned that the town is going to be increasing funding to do more street repair. So hopefully we don't get into a situation, which is what occurred on my street earlier this year, where it took 2 years for potholes to be fixed. This is something new and comes to us courtesy of the Buffalo News back in March. This is a company called Crafco, and they put out their Crafco Patcher. Now, this is being used in Niagara County. The equipment costs a little less than $50,000, but it heats the material at 400 degrees, and it creates a self-leveling, fast-drying, hot liquid that goes into the pothole. It's quickly spread level, and then it is topped with dusted small gravel. According to Niagara County, they feel that this is more efficient and durable than cold patch, which is what we use right now. Now, the equipment is rather expensive, but maybe this becomes a sharing agreement with another town. For example, we used to have a tub grinder that we shared with the town of Pittsford, and in exchange for use of their green waste landfill arrangement that they have over there. For example, maybe Monroe County is convinced to buy one of these or a couple of these so that a couple of towns can share at a time, to a faster way of doing potholes rather than what we've been doing in the past. Also sidewalks, and I will again bring up this company, Concrete Solutions. A lot of problems with sidewalks are because of tree roots. There are some that just wear, but this firm claims that all they do is lift up the concrete slab, clean out the roots underneath, put the slab back down. And their claim is it costs 1/2 to 2/3 less than all the work involved in having to pour a new concrete slab. So it might be worth contacting this firm and maybe do a little pilot project with them to see if this is something that could be used town-wide. Highway 3. Again, depending on their need, Perkins Manufacturing has this satellite truck with a ground scoop option for larger morbidities and a little safer and cleaner way to handle those circumstances when they come up. Also, Lodell has a truck-mounted loader for those times when the town is asked to pick up concrete or bricks on other people's properties. Now you're using one vehicle rather than a truck and a high lift. So now there's some automatic savings there. I still like the idea, as I brought up last year, of buying surplus military trucks. This again is from the town of Heartland, New York, and according to their town supervisor, Ross Annabelle, this was a military vehicle that they bought that was used in Germany as a tractor, and they retrofitted it for their use as a dump truck and snowplow. If we had bought it new, it would have cost about $150,000. We got it for $20,000. We had some expense in retrofitting it, but we still saved $100,000. Again, a significant expense. Last year, we talked about the town eventually acquiring 40-yard apprentice loaders for the pickup of brush and other debris. As that work is stepping up, besides that, those take care of the large pieces, but then there's also the small stuff. These devices here and here are front loaders. This one is called a Corrado can, named for Mr. Corrado who invented it. This other one is from Bain Lift Systems, and they call theirs a front load carry can. Combined with a 40-yard front load packer truck for all the small stuff that is generated, whether it's regular brush pickup or as tree work is being done, it's far more efficient because now you're not packing out air. Trucks are densely packed, and then they go over and dump and then continue on. As opposed to multiple trucks, multiple dump trucks, which is what we've been doing right along. And I'm going to find that air burner. It's in this pile. The Seabreeze Water District, I'm still surprised that Monroe County Water Authority is not willing to engage in a tuck-in acquisition with us. This is creeping up to close to almost $1 million in raw cost from a little under $900,000 5 years ago. If they can't or aren't willing to do a deal with us, I'll again suggest 3 publicly held companies that are doing municipal work around the country, American States Water Company, and that's aswater.com, American Water Company Incorporated, mwater.com, and Aqua America. And they're close by in Pennsylvania, aquaamerica.com. One way or the other, given the issues that this entity has had over the years and the creeping up cost, I would again suggest that it's time for us to get out of the water business, just as we need to get out of the cemetery business. Lastly, there's code enforcement. In terms of liability, back in 1991, the town passed a mandatory rule to have people get up their house numbers so they can be seen from the street. At least 5 inches high with a contrasting color to the house, not metal, not blocked by trees or shrubbery, and easily readable from the street. A lot of homes have large house numbers. I can think of any number of others that don't. Don't take my word for it. Check with your police, check with the fire companies, check with the fire marshal, and the ambulance companies. This is still an issue. I would suggest setting a firm deadline once and for all in the spring. Please, folks, get your house numbers increased. Because I really don't want to turn on the 7 o'clock news starring Jennifer Mobilia and see a graphic up on the screen, tragedy in Irondequoit, and someone having to explain, we could have prevented this, but we couldn't find the house in time. Enough is enough with this. Then there are dumpster enclosures. Now I realize you can't see this from the distance, but this is an ongoing problem for you. As an example, at Georgetown Plaza. And these are taken at the enclosure that was somewhat created at Adams Family Dollar. A former town director of development services at least had a wall put up so all the corrugated wouldn't go flying all over the service road. The problem is not with the hauler. There have been 4 different haulers on this site. The problem has been the construction of the receiving dock. It can be fixed, but that's going to require a discussion with the plaza owners in cooperation with their current hauler to put an end to this madness. Corrugated all over the place, tires, bless you,
Thank you.
tires all over the place. It's an absolute mess. And this is not the only store with an issue at this facility. Then you have it, which is probably the worst in town, a situation just up the street on Titus Avenue where a new art center is going in. It's inaccessible. There's grease all over the place. There's an issue about whether the grease container complies with the state fire code as far as its placement. There's another one similar to this, but it's going to be torn down to make way for the ESL construction. So that one goes away automatically. The firm in question is Buffalo Biodiesel. They need a little note from someone, registered or certified mail, please get your crappy equipment out of town. Love and kisses, the town of Arundecoit. At the Titus Avenue location, their guys in their trucks seem to have better luck with 55-gallon drums, as opposed to what's there right now, which is just disgusting. The point is, to all of this, oh, and let's not forget, the enclosures that are missing, which is also in the code. I've got a list here that I drew up last year of about 30 locations that still do not have dumpster enclosures. There's no follow-up. Now, I don't know whether code enforcement is understaffed, overwhelmed, or some combination thereof. But what we have right now really isn't working out very well. One solution that the town came up with years ago, and this is from the 2003 August 28th edition of the Arundecoit Post, when it was still a real newspaper. They got 4 crossing guards hired. They cut the town into quadrants, and they went around and cataloged stuff so the town could catch up. Maybe we need to do this again in order to help the second floor get caught up and bring things into compliance. Regardless of what, there's an issue there that needs to be addressed. And if you'll bear with me for just one moment. Here it is, under a piece of paper.
It's better be as good as advertised.
Air burners at your new public works facility. As I stated, was buried under a piece of paper, of course. Now, this is a 20-year-old firm, and this comes to us from MSW Management Magazine, which is put out by the Solid Waste Association of North America, of which I am a member. So they show here, and this is taken at an actual facility, can process 7 to 20 tons of waste per hour. It generates 1 milliwatt of thermal energy to heat these particular buildings they show here, dry materials, and also can clean water. As far as electrical energy is concerned, it generates 100 kilowatts of electrical energy. So something like this at your new public works facility not only can help reduce and process the brush pile faster, but can also generate some electrical and heat savings in your new building. That is my message.
Thank you, sir. And anything you have to leave, you can leave with the clerk or furnish it to us in another manner.
Yeah.
Did anyone else in the audience wish to address the board in the public hearing? Okay, with that, I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
Move.
And a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. Mr. Wayner abstains. He was not here for the beginning of the public hearing. With that, I think our, Mr. Goldblatt left, but thank you for his testimony and for the other members of the public in attendance. This concludes our body of work for this special town board meeting. The next workshop meeting will be Tuesday, November 13th at 4 p.m. here in the Broderick Meeting Room. That same day at 6 p.m., there will be a special town board meeting starting at 6 p.m. here in the Broderick Meeting Room, where I intend to advance for adoption the 2019 budget. And our next regular town board meeting will take place November 20th, also Tuesday, 7 p.m., our normal meeting time here in the Broderick Meeting Room. I will now take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.
We hope you enjoyed this presentation of the Irondequoit Town Board on ICAT, Government Access. We hope you enjoyed this presentation of the Irondequoit Town Board on ICAT, Government Access.